So for this program, if you're going to follow along, because you can, go ahead right now and grab a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil. And also while you're drawing and afterwards, if you want to share out what you've drawn with the museum, you can go ahead and put it on Facebook, on our Facebook, and tag us or tweet at us, and we will share out your drawings. So today with me to talk about drawing, and specifically airplanes, we have curator Larry. Larry, thanks for being with us here today.
Hi, Kate. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
And so you guys won't be seeing him, but you'll hear his voice. So it's okay if you can't see him. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to him to share with you about what he knows about drawing. Take it away, Larry.
Thanks, Kate. Hi, thanks for joining us, everyone. Like Kate said, I'm one of the curators at the museum, and that's me. And today, we are going to draw one of my favorite airplanes, the F4U Corsair. Now, that's a picture of our Corsair at the museum. The Corsair was a very, I guess, unique looking aircraft. It had these wings that were bent. So just starting off here, if you're good at drawing circles, you're going to be good at drawing this airplane. Now we're going to draw it from the front view. So this circle is the fuselage.
Now, Larry, what is a fuselage?
So the fuselage is where, on many airplanes, where the engine's situated, where the pilot's situated, and where the cabin is. So this is a head-on view of the aircraft. So what we're seeing right now, it's going to take a minute for this to resemble an airplane, but this is looking at the front of the aircraft. So this is where the engine is right here. And now I'm going to draw the cockpit. Okay, so that's the little bubble canopy that the pilot's head would be visible through. Now, like I was saying, this aircraft has some very distinct features. So it has these bent wings. And the reason why these wings are bent is because it has this enormous propeller that's 13 feet in diameter. And in order to give the propeller clearance from the ground, they had to put these bends in the wings like this. So this point in the bend right here, this is where they put the landing gear. So the landing gear wouldn't have to be as long. So these aircraft were designed to land on aircraft carriers, and that's a really, it's really hard on an airplane's undercarriage or its wheels. So if you make these wheel struts really long, they would snap off. So this was kind of a necessity. They had to make these landing gears short and strong. So the bend in the wing allowed these landing gear struts right here to be shorter and therefore stronger. Okay, so we got one wing over here. And this is a whole lot easier to do with a pencil, but I'm drawing with a pen so you can see it. You know, with a pencil, if you make a mistake, you can just go back and erase it. But see, it's starting to take shape now. So you can see this really distinctive bent wing or gull wing, profile this aircraft had. So what I'm drawing now is the vertical stabilizer in the back. And here is the horizontal stabilizer. Okay, and then right in the center is the propeller hub. Now, I like to make it look like the airplane's moving, like the propeller's spinning. So that's really easy to do. If you make a squiggly line like so. Okay, let me put the other landing gear on it. A little more about this airplane. So this airplane is first designed and developed in 1940. And it's the first aircraft or fighter aircraft that can exceed 400 miles an hour in level flight. That's pretty fast for its day. And when World War II starts, the Japanese, they had a light and nimble aircraft called a Zero or a Zeke. And at the beginning of the war, that Japanese aircraft was practically invincible. We didn't have an aircraft that could hang with it. You know, it was just a really good aircraft. So it wasn't until 1942 or so when this F4U Corsair started to reach squadron-based Marine Corps aviation units out in the Pacific that our pilots actually had an aircraft that could keep up with that Japanese Zero. So here, those circles I just put in the wings, those are 50 caliber machine guns. And the Corsair had 6 of them. So here's your little pilot right here. And there you go. That's the F4U Corsair from the head-on view. Now, for me, drawing it from the profile or the side is a little more difficult. I find it a little harder to do, but we'll draw it from the side now. Now, another distinguishing feature of that Corsair is its really long nose. So it has a super long nose. It goes way, way back to about here. And then the cockpit comes into view. And this version of the Corsair had like a bubble canopy, so they'd had better visibility. And then once you draw the bubble on the canopy, it kind of tapers down really sharply. Like so. Okay. Now, trying those gulled wings is kind of difficult from the side, I find. Okay. So it's starting to take shape now. You have your wing here. I don't know if that's starting to look like anything yet. But here's the canopy. Now I'm going to draw the vertical stabilizer on the end. That probably needs to be a little bigger. There we go. Okay. And then here is the horizontal stabilizer. All right. Now we have the basic shape of the airplane. Now we can start adding some details on it. So what I'm adding here is something called cowl flaps. So these little flaps were little openings right to the rear of the engine, and they would open and close so the aircraft's engine could get more air, or they could close them off, and wouldn't get as much air. So let's draw our propeller hub here. Okay. Now, aircraft carried like an insignia to show what country it was from. And we call that a rondelle. So on our aircraft in the museum, the rondelle that's on it dates to about 1943. So the United States changed this rondelle several different times during the war. So you can almost date these aircraft depending on the style of the national insignia. So here we have a star inside a blue circle. And then on either side of the star are stripes. Okay, here we go. So once you get the basic shape of your aircraft drawn, you can start adding these little details. And these are panel lines. So as the aircraft skin is assembled together, you see all these lines in it when you look closely at it. So these kind of add a little more detail to the plane. My pen's smudging, sorry about that. Okay, and then on the tail here, you can add some finer details. So this part I'm drawing here is the rudder. So the rudder turns left or right, and it kind of steers the airplane. So if you wanted to add some bombs, the Corsair had bomb racks here and here. So if we wanted to add bombs on the aircraft, you just put them like so. There we go. So there you have it. That's your F4U Corsair. Now, another aircraft I'd like to show you how to sketch is the B-17. Now that's another aircraft we have at the museum. In fact, it's the largest aircraft we have at the museum. There you go. So this aircraft is hanging in our Boeing US Freedom Pavilion, and it is enormous. It has a 93-foot wingspan from wingtip to wingtip. Now the B-17 is a heavy bomber, so it had a crew of 10. Now again, if you're good at drawing circles, you'll be really good at drawing this airplane. So we start with a circle. And then we add this little shape like so at the top. And then inside that circle, you kind of want to make like a puppy dog nose. All right. And that's the plexiglass nose of the aircraft where the bombardier sits. So the B-17 has a low wing. So the wing's really low. So we've added a little wing. Now we're going to do another circle here and here. Now that's the engines, the inboard engines, okay? Then we're going to add a little more wing. And here we have another engine. A little more wing, another engine. Okay. Now you just extend your lines to where they meet at the end. Okay. Now the B-17 had a crew of 10. So 10 people were on this airplane. So this is the pilot here and the co-pilot here. Right behind the pilot and co-pilot was the top turret. So the top turret is a motorized turret with 250 caliber machine guns in it. Now beyond that, I'm going to draw the vertical stabilizer. And then we have the horizontal stabilizer, and it's really low. So the proportions of this plane are a little out. So the wings, you want to make your wings a little longer, a little wider. Okay. So we start adding a little more detail to the engines now that we have our basic shape. Okay. And we want our airplane to fly, so we'll put some swirly propellers on it. Okay. Now, if you want to draw your airplane with the bomb bay doors open, all you have to do is add 2 little lines like that. And you can, if you want, you can draw the bombs falling out of it if you'd like. And in many cases, these bombs kind of tumbled when they came out, so you can draw them at all different angles. That, okay. Now let's try drawing it from the side. Let's give that a shot. Like I said, I'm no good at drawing them from the side, but we'll give it a try. So it's going to be a long, kind of cigar-shaped shape that we start out with.
Larry, while you're drawing that, we have a question from Dylan, and he wants to know, is the B-17 bomber in our museum still flying today, or is it fully restored?
Well, it is flying 24 hours a day because it's hanging from the ceiling. But it is fully restored, but it's not been restored to flying condition. So it looks like it can fly, and the restoration is really top-notch, really well-done restoration on it. But no, it doesn't fly. It just hangs from the ceiling. But our aircraft is a very early model B-17. It's an E model. So the E model is one of the first B-17s that actually looks like a flying fortress. So the E model has all these guns all over it. Now the earlier models really didn't have that. And the E model's kind of rare. They only made about 512 of them. And our airplane was on its way over to England to join the war effort in the summer of 1942, but it ran into bad weather and it crashed over Greenland. And the crew of that aircraft, the name of the aircraft was Miguel Sal, they were trapped on the ice for 10 days before they were rescued. But, you know, the story has a happy ending. They all were rescued. Okay, so now I guess we're starting to get something here. So you can start to see the shape of an airplane coming together here. All right, so now we just want to start adding the little details. Okay, so here's the flight deck right here, where the pilot and the co-pilot are. And then remember, right behind them is the top turret. So that's a motorized turret with 250 caliber machine guns. And here's the tricky part, where we have to draw the engines. Okay. So here's one engine, or the beginning of an engine. And here's the second engine. Now I'm drawing the wingtip, a big, long, 93-foot wingspan. All right, it looks like it's coming together now. Okay. So the engines, the 4 engines on the B-17, they're going to have those cowl flaps too, like we drew on the Corsair. Now that plexiglass nose, that's where the bombardier station is. So there's a bomb sight right here in the airplane that the bombardier looks through to aim the bombs. Then directly behind that plexiglass nose are 2 little windows. The bombardier and the navigator, who sits about right there, can look out of. And we move further down the aircraft, the pilot and the co-pilot there, the top turret gunner, who's also the flight engineer. And the flight engineer, he's kind of like an in-flight mechanic. So he knows more about that airplane than anybody else on board. And hopefully he can fix any problems they have. So further back from him is the radio operator. So the radio operator is right here. Oh, and I guess most importantly, the bomb bay is between here and there. So the radio operator is here, and he has a 50 caliber machine gun. We move further back. Here we have what's called the ball turret. Now, it was a completely self-contained motorized turret where a crew member would get inside of it, and he'd have to scrunch himself up like he was in the fetal position. But it also has 250 caliber machine guns. Then we move a little further down the aircraft, and there is the waist gunner position. Now there's a left waist and a right waist gunner. So there's 2 guys here, and they have a 50 caliber machine gun. And then if you move all the way to the tail of the aircraft, this is the tail gunner position back here, and he has 250 caliber machine guns. So there's a lot of firepower on this aircraft. So now let's add a few more details. So there's a propeller hub there. There's the engine spinning, or the propeller spinning. And we'll draw the national insignia on this plane. And this plane has an earlier national insignia than the Corsair had. So this airplane's from 1942. So it lacks those bars on either side of the rondelle. So we just have a star inside that blue circle here.
Larry, how big was the crew on a B-17?
Oh, there's 10 people on there. 10 people. 10 people. So these aircraft, I mean, they're probably most famous for flying out of England and bombing industrial targets in Germany. Now, on some of these missions, on some of the worst missions, they would have over 60 of these shot down. And I mean, that's 600 crew members either killed or captured. So this was a very, very dangerous job to do. So we'll add some panel lines on the plane, make it a little more realistic. Oh yeah, also in the nose of our plane, there's one 30 caliber machine gun. Now, as the war went on and better models of the B-17 came out, they even added more machine guns to them because the German Air Force was doing such a good job of shooting them down. So later models of the B-17 had 4 50 caliber machine guns up here, or sometimes they even put what was called a chin turret on it. So it had a turret like that with 2 50 caliber machine guns in it. But that's basically the B-17. So if you have any questions, I'd do my best to answer them.
Well, Larry, we have, I know you can't see them, but we have a lot of questions coming in. So first of all, and we may have talked about this, but I think you came in late. Can you just reiterate what a rondelle is on the plane?
Sure. So let's take a look at an actual rondelle because mine aren't too good. So this part right here, that's the rondelle or national insignia that identifies the nationality of this aircraft. So this one here, this is from 1942. And like I said, as the war goes on, they changed the rondelle or national insignia. So they keep evolving over the course of the war.
And Kyle said he may be remembering this wrong, but was there ever a red dot in the middle of the star at any point?
There absolutely was, yeah. So here, I have a red pen right here. So when the war started, this is what the rondelle looked like, just like that, a red dot in the center. But when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor in December of 1941, we were at war with the Japanese after that. And the Japanese insignia for their aircraft was simply a red circle to represent a sun. So the idea was we don't want, our guys mistaking our aircraft for Japanese because of that red ball in the center. So that's when they deleted it. Probably about 5 months after Pearl Harbor, they got rid of it.
That makes perfect sense. And sticking with the theme of planes, do you happen to know, R. Matthews wants to know how many types of planes we have in our museum?
Oh, wow. We have, well, just in the Boeing Center, we have, I believe, 6. We have so many, I can't even keep track of them all. So there's the F-4U Corsair, the B-17, the SBD Dauntless, the TBM Avenger, a B-25, a P-51 Mustang, a P-40 Warhawk, and a Bf-109 German fighter. I think that's it. Nope, C-47, and the Spitfire. So we have a ton of airplanes at the museum.
We do, and we hope you can all come visit and see them once we reopen. And so we have another question. We have time for about 2 more questions. Of all those planes, what's your favorite airplane at the museum? And what is your favorite airplane to draw?
Oh, I think I like drawing the Corsair the best. And I would say the Corsair is one of my favorite aircraft. But at the museum, my favorite aircraft is the Dauntless, which is a Navy dive bomber that's super famous from the Battle of Midway. That aircraft kind of changed the tide of the war against Japan. Those aircraft sunk they sunk 3 Japanese aircraft in minutes. So it's a really neat aircraft. But the Corsair, I think, is my favorite to draw.
And it looks like we're just about out of time today. So I want to remind everyone, please share with us your drawings that you did of either of these 2 planes, or if you have any other planes that you drew while we were doing this. And also, I'm going to end it with Larry telling us what we're going to be talking about on Monday if you guys join us for our live webinar.
Oh, yes, I have another one of these things Monday, and we're going to look at some of the World War II items that the filmmakers of Star Wars kind of converted to make look futuristic. So you're going to see a lot of items from World War II that prop masters kind of converted into weapons and other props that was used in the original Star Wars trilogy.
Awesome. Well, we hope that you enjoyed today's presentation. Larry, thank you so much for being here with us and doing this. And we hope to see you all back on Monday for World War II and Star Wars. May the 4th be with you.
Thanks, Kate.